Hello everybody, what's up? It's me again, Young Monster 3, and it is time for a new update video, which has been quite a while. I think it's been like at least 1 month or so. So like usual, I'm going to start with the non-horror movies for the DVDs, and then I'm going to continue with the horror DVDs, and then we eventually get to the Blu-rays. So that's the usual thing that I do when I make my update videos, or like physical media updates in general. But anyway, let's begin right away. First up, we have a film called Naked Space, which is sort of some sort of like spoof, I believe, on the Stanley Kubrick 2001 film, I believe. This one is with Leslie Nielsen from the Naked Gun movie, so it's probably something similar to that. I don't even think the original title was Naked Space. I think it was something else, but I just assumed that they renamed it Naked Space just to cash in on that whole craze, because this one came out in the early 80s, I believe. So I've heard some really bad things about it, but still I want to check it out for myself. So yeah. Then we have a Dolph Lundgren film from the early 2000s, action film, a film called Detention. This was recommended to me by one of my friends. This was like years ago when he mentioned it, and ever since he mentioned it, I just couldn't find it anywhere. Then eventually I found this particular DVD, and I just decided to pick it up, basically. So this was really dirt cheap as well, so I was really lucky with this one. So yeah, Detention. And then we have a film called Armed Response. I believe this is directed by Fred Olen Ray, if I'm not completely wrong. Yeah, Fred Olen Ray. And you have Lee Van Cleef in it, and you also have David Carradine. I think this is one of the very last films that Lee Van Cleef ever appeared in, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I mean, that's how it goes sometimes. But I mean, David Carradine in some of these 80s films in general, they're just so hilarious and so stupid to a certain degree that you just can't help but laugh at them. So yeah, Armed Response. This is actually, I believe, like a Spanish release. So some of those Spanish releases, I think, are not really like legitimate releases. I think some of them are actually like bootlegs. But as for this one, I'm not really sure. But this was the only way I could get a hold of this particular one. So Armed Response, 80s action film. And then we like I'm some sort of like weird psychopath. Then I picked up a film, which is, I mean, I already had a previous two, and for some weird reason, the first three films in this franchise series, whatever you want to call it, they're usually really, really expensive and really tricky to get a hold of. But I got a hold of this one, and it is Pokemon 3. Like I said, I already had a previous two. I have seen this one at some point, but I don't remember it too much. I mean, of course, I've seen the first one. I've seen the most times. The second one, I think I rewatched like 2 years ago, and I thought that was pretty good as well. So now I have the three most rare films in this series, so to say. But yeah, so yeah, Pokemon 3. There we go from Pokemon 3 to something that is probably not as kid friendly, if you can say so. And it is Emmanuel. I'm not really sure if I can even show you the front of this DVD, to be fair, but the main reason why I picked up this one was because I recently picked up a film called A Young Emmanuel, I believe, which I believe is some sort of like prequel or sequel to this one. And the reason why I picked that one up was because that was part of the retro films label, which I kind of collect with all of those numbers and whatever with on the spine. So that's the main reason why I picked up that film, and that's the main reason why I picked up this one as well. So yeah, Emmanuel, some sleazy film from the 70s. So yeah. Then we have a 90s sci-fi film. I think this is 90s, 1998 or 99, I believe. And it's the film called The 13th Floor. Looks very late 90s, early 2000-esque, if you ask me, just based on that front cover right there. So yeah. And then we have a women in prison film from the 90s, which is kind of a rarity because most of those women in prison films really were the most popular during like the 70s and 80s, and then they just kind of, no one really wanted to make those movies anymore. So you could say they were definitely out of fashion when this particular film came out. And it's the film called Fugitive Rage. I've seen this one once before, and I thought it was decent for what it was, but might need to rewatch it. Then we have this one. This is yet another one of those sleazy films. I think I need to censor that. Carnal Risk, right there. Some sort of like thriller from the 90s as well. So sleazy thriller. I have no idea what that was all about. I mean, I got it for dirt cheap, so it's kind of like a blind buy in a way. And then I picked up this one, and the main reason why I wanted to pick this one up was because of Harrison Ford, and this is a film that he appeared in between the first Star Wars film and the second Star Wars film, and it's the Western comedy, I guess, film called The Frisco Kid. And this is another one which was a little bit tricky to get a hold of, but then eventually I found it. Sorry for the lighting in here from time to time. Sometimes it's just really, really bright, and sometimes it's just really, really dark. I don't really understand why. So yeah, you'll have to deal with that. Then we have an 80s film from the early 80s called Annie. And according to the back of this DVD, this is actually some sort of musical. Usually, I'm not the biggest fan of musicals in general, but in later years, I've sort of like grown to appreciate them for what they are. Wizard of Oz obviously comes to mind. But I mean, this one I've actually heard some good things about as well. So yeah, Annie from the early 80s. This is from, let's see here, it is from, doesn't sound bad, 1981, according to the back of this DVD. So yeah. Then we have a Japanese film, some sort of Japanese action film. I can't show you the back because otherwise I'll get flagged. And the film is called Zero Woman Red Handcuffs, I believe. I don't remember what the regional title is or not, because the title is just really weird. Because I don't think you say Zero Red Handcuffs Woman. I think that sounds really weird, but yeah, judge for yourself based on that title. So yeah. Then we have a film which I believe is some sort of like war film. Yeah, some sort of war film from the late 80s, and it is the film called Kampuchea Express. Really old DVD. I mean, I don't think this company is even around anymore. Pegasus Pictures or Pegasus Releasing, whatever. But they usually release some really rare films in general, so that was also sort of like a blind buy. And then we have a comedy film with Gene Wilder called Hanky Panky. Right there, so yeah. Also, I mean, the main reason I picked this one up was because of Gene Wilder, so yeah. Then we have this one. This is another one that I wanted to get for quite some time, and yeah, I was just really glad to find this for a decent price. I've heard this is a really nice, like, coming of age type of film, and really like a feel good type of film, you can say. And it's the film called On Golden Pond with what's his name, Henry Fonda and Jane Fonda, and Katharine Hepburn as well. So really amazing cast in that one as well. So yeah, always wanted to see that one. I've grown to appreciate more of those like heartfelt feel good type films in later years, because there's so much like misery and other things going around in the world right now. So I just want to like distance myself from all the negativity. So that's also the reason why I really gotten more into those type of films. So so the next film is the film by Francis Ford Coppola, and it is the film called The Escape Artist. So yeah, heard mixed things about this one. Apparently this is not really one of his best. Now this is weird. I could have swore, oh, it's Francis Ford Coppola Presents, so he's not the director of this film. The director of this film is Caleb Deschanel. So yeah. Then we have this one, Pink Floyd, The Wall. I'm not sure if this is, I mean, obviously I know about Pink Floyd and I know about The Wall and all the music and all that, but I believe this is actually like a feature film, which I believe is some sort of like horror musical thing. Could be, I'm not really sure, but yeah, Pink Floyd, The Wall. From 1982, I believe. Either 1982 or 1983, so yeah. Then we have an early 80s film. Once again, this is, I think, is another like coming of age type of film, and it's the film called Liar's Moon. Now, when I look this one up on IMDb, I just usually like check around like if I have the film in my collection or not. It turned out that this was one film that I actually already had before, but I think that was like included in one of those like really, really big box sets, which I believe is, I mean, some of those like films that are released in those bigger box sets usually come with really terrible picture quality. So I mean, you'll have to judge for yourself eventually. So if whatever like you can handle when it comes to poor picture quality. But the next film is a film called Polyester by John Waters. And John Waters has produced some really weird and wacky type of films with really like really, really dark comedies, you could say. I mean, I did watch Pink Flamingos not that long ago for the very first time, and that was just utterly disgusting and really like. It's a film that you probably only watch once because it's so weird and so disgusting in a certain way. I mean, the entire plot line of that film is basically just who could be the filthiest person alive, so you probably get the whole point with that. But I really like some of his other films as well. I do like Pecker with Edward Furlong, and I also really liked his film Serial Mom. Those are probably my favorite films of his. I've yet to watch Cecil B. Demented, which he released in the early 2000s, I believe. But this one I've never seen before, so you never really know when it comes to John Waters in general. So yeah. Then we have a film which I have seen before. This one I watched on TV. I think it was like 1 or 2 years ago, and it's the film called "We Need to Talk About Kevin." Really depressing and messed up. And now I'm just talking about like films that really, I mean, I want to watch like fun films, and this is really depressing. So I really contradicted myself when it come to that comment before. But we need to talk about Kevin. Amazing film nonetheless. Really, really tough to get through. Not necessarily that it's not unnecessarily like it's not very, very violent or gory or blood or anything like that. It's just the whole situations and stuff like that that really puts me off from that film. It's a really good film nonetheless. So I mean, it's still recommended. So I just wanted to go out with a warning for that one. Then we have this one. Now I watched this film years and years ago. I could never find it on DVD or Blu-ray. The main reason why I checked this film out in the first place was because this director also directed the film called Versus and Asumi. And Asumi is one film that I've just seen so many times. And I think when I watched this for the first time, I don't think I had seen a single Godzilla film up to that point. Maybe if you don't count the remake that came out in the late 90s or whatever. But this is the film called Godzilla Final Wars. Entertaining action schlock, you could say. This is such a, I mean, fun film. I mean, obviously you have like Godzilla just destroying everything in his way, but it's a very entertaining film nonetheless. So one of the better ones that I've seen, definitely. So there's some questionable CGI from time to time, especially since this came out in the early 2000s. But as a whole, this is a really fun film. So yeah, Godzilla Final Wars. Then we have yet another Japanese film, and this is part of the Takashi Miike, not Takashi Miike collection, but it's directed by Takashi Miike. And it's a film called Young Thugs Nostalgia. I think I have another film which was called like Young Thugs something else. I think this is actually a sequel to that other Takashi Miike film in some weird way. So Takashi Miike is also really good when it comes to blending like dark themes with comedy. I think he's really amazing at that. So yeah. Then we have a Western film called The Texas Rangers. Now, this is a really old film. This is from the 30s, I believe. 1936. One of the main reasons why I picked this one up is because some of those films you rarely even see for sale anywhere. So, yeah, I don't know too much about the film itself, but I mean, yeah, it's a film you don't come across very often. And then we have this film. I think this is like a made-for-TV film from the early 80s, and this is yet another Western film. And it's the film called The Shadow Riders with Tom Selleck and Sam Elliott, who I've always confused with one another. I think they look so similar. So if they don't play brothers in this film, I'm going to be really mad. So, yeah. And then we have an 80s film again. Once again, this is by Lawrence Kasdan, who I believe is involved in the Star Wars films in some way. If it's some producer or something, I'm not really sure. But this is the film called The Accidental Tourist. Sorry, I just really couldn't find the title because this is actually like the Swedish title right here. So yeah, now I think almost I need to move these away so I can show you the rest right here. Then we have this film. This I've seen before. This is another one that I watched on TV, and this is by Ang Lee, and it is the film called The Ice Storm. Sort of like a family drama film. I don't want to say too much else about it, but if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's probably one of his best films in my personal opinion. So yeah, The Ice Storm. And let's see here. Then we have another 90s film right here, and this is the film called October Sky. and apparently this is some like special edition. Not really sure what's so special about it. Okay, feature commentary, theatrical trailer. I mean, trailers you can barely even say is like special features. It's just like a trailer, but and then you also have Aiming High, the story of the Rocket Boy. So maybe some sort of behind the scenes or something. So spotlight on location as well. So I've only heard really good things about this one. So that's the main reason why I picked it up in the first place. So has Jake Gyllenhaal and Laura Dern in it. So if I speak really, really fast, it's because I have a lot of films to go through. So that's the main reason. So then we have this film, R.I.P. Val Kilmer. I think that was such a huge loss. I mean, obviously he was sick for years, but I think he, in general, was such an underrated actor in general. But this is one film of with him that I've never seen before. But this is yet another film that is really tough to get a hold of from time to time. I'm not really sure if it's based also now just based because he just recently passed away. I think always that just feels very filthy whenever like some company or like some seller like are demanding much more money for a film when there's like an actor or actress that has recently passed away. I think that's a little bit dirty to do that. But this is the film called Thunderheart, action thriller from the early 80s. So yeah. And then we have a film with none other than John Lennon. And it's the film called How I Won the War from the 60s. This has to be like some sort of like comedy film, right? Or is this actually, for some weird reason, just based on that front cover, I just assume it's a comedy, but I could be totally wrong about that. Maybe it's just really, really bleak. Then we have a film with Steve Martin, and this film I didn't even realize had a release over here up until I saw this for sale, because I've been searching for this film for such a long time. I was just like, wait a minute, this actually has a release? I'm really baffled about that. So I did decide to pick this one up, and it's the film called Leap of Faith. Some sort of like film about Steve Martin being like a con artist. I think he's like a fake healer or something, and then he's like scamming people and taking their money. I don't really know, but I heard some really good things about that one as well, and I believe that's from the early 90s. And then we have a film with Oliver Reed, a film called The Trap, and that's pretty much everything I know about this entire film. It's called The Trap, and it has Oliver Reed in it. Looks like some sort of Western film. I could be totally wrong, but yeah, The Trap. Terrible title, by the way. You should never like call your film like just a one name only thing. It's sort of like saying The Door. Oh, amazing title for your film. So then we have a blaxploitation film from the 70s. Has to be 70s, right? 1972, and it is the film called Trouble Man. Trouble Man? Yeah, Trouble Man. Mr. T is cold, hard steel. Are they referring to that Mr. T that I'm thinking of, or is it just someone else? It has to be someone else. I'm not really sure, but yeah. So let's continue with the next track right here. Here we have all of the horror movies on DVD. When I've gone through all of these, I'm going to talk a little bit about the box sets that I picked up, and then we move on with the Blu-rays. So yeah. First up in this stack right here is the film called Descendant from the early 2000s. This one has Catherine Hagel and Jeremy London in it. I mean, I'm a sucker for some of those early 2000s films in general. They might not necessarily be great films, but they always have a special type of charm to them. Then we have a film with Paul Naschy called The Blue Eyes of the Broken Doll, Spanish horror film. I'm not sure if it's the same cover art. Yeah, it's the same cover art right here, right there. I've never really understood that when you have like an alternate like slip cover and it's just the same type of cover art. That doesn't make sense to me. Then we have another film from the early 2000s called Circulation. This is a complete blind buy. I had no idea what this was all about, and I've never heard about it before. And that is the main reason why I picked it up. So yeah, I can only blame myself if that turns out to be really, really bad. And then we have a film. I think this has to be yet another like really low budget film, and it is the film called Crowbar. I believe it's just called Crowbar: The Killings of Wendell Graves. So I used to assume this is some sort of serial killer film, so or maybe a slasher film. Then we have a film with Tony Todd, once again another actor that sadly passed away not too long ago. And it is the film called Shadow Dead Riot right here, and this is a really old Shriek Show release. This actually does have another cover art on it right here. If you just look at this right here, it's just a little bit different from that. I think I do prefer that other cover art on the slip cover, with like the whole slip thing right here. So I think this is some sort of vampire film, so maybe a zombie film. I have no idea if this is a zombie film or a horror film. What's horror? Of course, it's a horror film. I'm not sure if it's a zombie film or a vampire film. That's what I wanted to say. Then we have a Trauma release right here with. This is actually, I'm not sure if they made a film from this film. If they've made a film from this film, if this was based on a film or if this inspired them to make a film, I'm not really sure. But the Chainsaw Sally Show. Volume 1. I think they were supposed to make a Volume 2, but I think that got cancelled or something. But they made like a feature film out of this as well, which I've never seen before either. But you know, when it comes to Trauma, they're doing really weird, goofy things in general, usually really low budget, but most of the time pretty fun things that they produce and release. And then we have Piranha Double D. This is actually like the sequel to the Piranha film that came out in the early 2010s, and that was a remake of an older film from the 70s. I do like the remake of Piranha. I think that was decent enough, but I've only heard really terrible things about this one, but I want to judge for myself, so yeah. I do like some animal attack films in general, so yeah. And then we have a film which is a werewolf film, and I've never heard about this before, and I usually really want to pick up some really weird, obscure things in general, so and this is the film called The Feeding right here. Very generic type of cover art, if you ask me, so yeah. Then we have a film which probably is maybe more of a thriller film than a straightforward horror film, but I ended up in this section of the video anyway. But it is the film called Good Night Mommy, and I believe this is either a German or Austrian film. I think this is actually an Austrian film. I can be totally wrong about that, but yeah, killer kid film in some weird way, about these really evil kids going around doing stupid things. And then we have this one. This is the one I picked up because the title alone is just like, why would you not want to watch this to see what this is all about? The Puppet Monster Massacre. Also real low budget, I believe, especially if you just look at the back right here. There's actually like Muppets right here. So then we have this one. I'm not really sure if I can even say this, but yeah, I think you can probably judge for yourself what this says right here if I just do that. But nice at the center of the earth. Then again, I think I might even need to do that with a flag. But yeah, I don't want to say the title because once again, I don't know if I will get flagged or not. Then we have Jean Rollin, the Frenchman who always provides us with really weird and sleazy type of vampire films. And this is this film called Iron Rose, which I did not have in the collection before. To be fair, I've only seen 2 or 3 of his films, and they've been pretty entertaining and really atmospheric in a weird way, so yeah. Then we have this one. This is actually an Indonesian horror film, I believe. Is this Indonesian? It says language Tagalog, so I'm not really sure if that's actually or maybe a Filipino. It doesn't say if it's Filipino. It's either Filipino or Indonesian. I can't be totally wrong, but this is the film called The Road. Once again, terrible title. One thing that I thought was a little bit unfortunate is that this is actually a bootleg, and that really got me pissed off a little bit because I thought this was a legitimate release. But I mean, I still have the film, so I'm glad about that. But it really did piss me off a little bit. Then we have some Japanese films right here. First up, we have some sort of, I assume this is some sort of ghost film. And this is the film called The Vanished from 2006, I believe. Yeah, 2006, according to the back of this DVD, so yeah. Oh my god, now I really need to speed up. Then we have this one. I think this is some sort of comedy film. I mean, this probably could have ended up in the other section of this video, but yeah, whatever. This is the film called Big Man Japan, about some really big guy going around like a Godzilla monster or like King Kong monster, basically. At least that's what I've read about. So yeah, I have no idea what that is all about. Then we have I think this is some sort of serial killer film, another film from Japan, and this is the film called Crazy Lips. Right here, sure you can see the front cover right there. So yeah. Then we have a film from, I think this is a Chinese film, and it's the film called Rigor Mortis. Yeah, kind of a blind buy, but I'm a sucker for some of those Asian like horror films in general. Like, they are usually much more creative when it comes to like horror films than Hollywood is at this point. So yeah. Then we have a film with Bette Davis in it from the 60s. This film is called Dead Ringer, not to be confused with Dead Ringers by David Cronenberg from the 80s, but I don't think you're gonna confuse those films at all. But yeah, really a simple cover art. Still like it though. Could be better, could be worse. Then we have this one. This is some sort of weird. This one I should have put at the box set section of this video, but over 13 hours, 9 movies, 3 DVDs, cult horror collection. Some of these I actually had before, so I'm not really sure why I even picked this one up in the first place, but this one has, I'm just going to show you this right here. Here we have it, the box set. In this one you have Don't Look in the Basement from 1973 and Memorial Valley Massacre from 1988, Kill Baby Kill by Mario Bava from 1966, The Demon from 1976, The Hatchet Murders from 1975, Pieces from 1983, Silent Night, Bloody Night from 1973, Night of Bloody Horror from 1974, and Horror Rises from the Tomb from 1972. Now, I have not seen... I've seen Don't Look in the Basement. That was... I didn't care too much for that one. Memorial Valley Massacre was sort of like a so bad it's good type of slasher film from the 80s. Kill Baby Kill by Mario Bava I've not seen before. The Hatchet Murders I think I did watch, but I thought that was decent. Pieces is a really fun film. Silent Night, Bloody Night is... it is what it is. It's still okay. And the other ones I've not seen, so yeah. Here we have it. Then we have this one. This one I already had before, but the reason why I picked this one up was because I wanted to get the other 2 films that was included in this particular, like, in this pack, whatever. Or like whenever when I ordered these films, I got this one like as a bonus thing. But The Mangler, it is what it is. It's okay. Nothing too special. But the main reason why I picked this one up was because I got these other 2, The Mangler 2. Which I've only heard bad things about, but I still want to judge for myself. And then you have The Mangler Reborn, with some sort of like holographic weird looking cover up right there. Then we have I believe this is a British found footage film. Is it British? I think it is British, but it's the film called Mr. Jones. Right there, so yeah. Then we have the film called The Butcher Boys. And apparently this was written by the guy who wrote the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, Kim Henkel. He did not direct the film, but I believe he was also like a producer on this one. I'm not completely wrong, but yeah. Then we have another British horror film, I believe. A film called Break. The main reason why I picked this one up was because of the cover art. You should never do that, but I always tend to fall into that trap, so yeah. Then we have a full moon film. When it comes to full moon, you never know when you're going to get. Sometimes it's just really, really entertaining garbage, and sometimes it's just really, really bad garbage. But this is the film called Head of the Family, right here. So yeah. And then we have the film, which I've only heard bad things about as well, but I want to judge for myself, and it's the film called Insecticidal, right here. Some sort of like killer bug film. This is another one which had really terrible reviews everywhere, but yeah, sometimes they can be fun. I don't know. But I mean, it's released by Brain Damage Films, so if that's anything to go by, it's probably going to be really, really bad. But it's a film called Sickness House, right here. Yep. Then we have this film from the 80s, which I have seen before. To be fair, I didn't care too much for it at all, but I thought for myself I might need to rewatch it, because I do think some of the practical effects in this one was pretty good. And it's the film called The Occultist. Right there, so yeah. And the last one for this horror DVD section right here is the film called Wild Country right here. So some sort of werewolf film. Yeah, it has to be werewolf film right there. So yeah. So before we continue with the Blu-rays, I'm going to show you some of the box sets as well. Now the first one is not necessarily like a box set. This is actually a hard box release of the film called Fighting Warriors. And just take a look at that front cover. It looks really amazing, really retro. And this is actually also known as Dead End Street, I believe. And this one has Robert Sudar in it. I've seen this one before, and I thought it was pretty fun for what it was. And you can probably see there, it's a limited one. I actually got number 98 out of 99, so that's a very limited release. This one, so and really cool to have like such a high number. Sometimes people like collectors want really low numbers or really high numbers, and that's a very special number right there. So I'm not too like big on that in general, but I just ended up getting like that number, so I thought that was a little bit fun. Then we have this box set right here. I am pretty sure I can't show you the back of this, but I can tell you the title of the titles of this: The Wild World of Russ Meyer. Yeah, you know it's going to be some really weird sleazy films in general. I've not seen a single Russ Meyer film before, so that's the main reason why I picked up this box set, just to see what the whole fuss was all about. But this one has Vixen in it, Up, Mondo Topless, Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, Super Vixens, and Beneath the Valley of the Ultra Vixens. So yeah, I just assume there's going to be some really weird sleaze films from the 70s, so yeah, you never know. Then the last like box set right here is some sort of anime, which I've never seen before. This is the anime called School Rumble, but I'm not entirely sure if this is actually like the entire like series, because there's only 26 episodes in this particular box set. So maybe it's not the complete one. I'm not really sure, but I mean I'll have to judge for myself if I do like this series or not. Otherwise, I might not care too much about it. But yeah. I'm always open to watch other like anime films in general, like a series in general. So my favorite one is probably still Silver Fang. I thought that was just an amazing anime film, and I could watch that over and over again. Then let's continue with the Blu-rays, shall we? Now I've been talking for about almost more than 32 minutes. Yeah, more than 32 minutes, damn. So the first Blu-ray in this section right here is the film called Dangerous Men. If you know the history about this film, you know what this is all about. It's basically a film that they were making the film in the 70s, continue making it in the 80s, and they continued making it in the 90s, but it wasn't completed until 2005. Which means this is probably a very chaotic film to watch. But I've heard this is supposed to be some of those so bad it's good type of films, so yeah, I couldn't pass on this one. I just really wanted to get a hold of it right away, so yeah. That's the thing, I usually look for films that can make me laugh. Even, I mean, if there's like a film that is so bad it's good, that's just so funny. I mean, The Room, for example, Miami Connection, Deadly Prey. I mean, there's so many of those examples that just really makes me laugh. So the next one is a horror film called Abominable. I believe this is with Lance Henriksen. I have seen this once before. This is basically like a killer Bigfoot film. I didn't care too much for it the first time I watched it, but I've decided for myself I need to rewatch it and see if I like it even more, because Lance Henriksen, I usually pick up anything with that guy in it. Then we have some sort of slasher film from the... Okay, I can't show you that probably, but it's a slasher film from the 80s, which I think was made in South Africa, actually. Could be totally wrong about that, but this is the film called The Shadowed Mind. Released by Severin Films, or Severin. Yep. Then we have a film released by 88 Films, and this is, I believe, an Australian film. Could it be New Zealand? No, this is, it says Exploitation, so this is an Australian film, horror film. This is the film called Harlequin from the early 80s, so yeah. Never seen before. Now, the next couple of films right here are films that was released by Vinegar Syndrome, and Vinegar Syndrome are always really cool when it comes to movies in general, like their releases. So, but first up we have this one right here, which I have seen before. This, like I said before, this qualifies into that same category, like I said before, like so bad it's good type of films. But it is Talons of the Eagle with Billy Blanks and Jalala Murray. This one also has James Hong in it and Priscilla Barnes. Such a fun, stupid film, really. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some really great action choreography in this one, I would say as well. But yeah, you have to see it to believe it. Really, it's a really fun, stupid film. And then we have, which I would probably say is one of the best Don the Dragon Wilson films out there, to be fair. That's the reason why I picked this particular Blu-ray up, and it's the film called Red Sun Rising right there. So yeah, really amazing film. Here you have the back right there. So yeah, really cool film. Then I picked this one up. I have seen this one before, and then you might ask yourself, why did you pick this one up if you already had this movie in your collection? Now, I had a really old DVD release of this one, and the picture quality was just absolutely atrocious. So that's the reason why I picked this one up on Blu-ray, and it is the film called The Bees, a Killer Bee film from the 70s, I believe. This is one with John Saxon, and yeah, 1978. So I always confuse these like Killer Bee films in general because I've seen so many of those. So sometimes I do confuse this one with the Savage Bees and what was that other bee film? I've seen so many of those. Then we have a not really sure if I can show you the front of this one either, but it's the film called Wonder Women. I'm not sure if I can show you that. Wonder Women right there. Yeah, exploitation film from the 70s. Could be fun. I mean, I think I've seen that one once before, and I thought it was decent enough. Then this is another one which you could sort of like goes into the same category as The Beast. This is the one that was released on Code Red DVD back in the day, but that was probably like a cut version, or maybe like the picture quality was really bad. So I decided to pick up this Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray instead, and it is the film called The Undertaker with Joe Spinell, one of their last films that he appeared in before he sadly passed away. This is from 1988, so yeah, some sort of serial killer film from the 80s, so couldn't pass on that one. Then we have a film from the 70s once again, I believe, 74, yes, and it is the film called Old Dracula. Now this is apparently some sort of like horror comedy, so you didn't see too much of like horror comedies in the 70s, I would say in general, so that could be interesting. Now this one I have seen before. I had a really shitty like bootleg of this one before, so obviously I wanted the real deal. And this is another slasher from the 80s, and it is the film called Disconnected. Really weird looking cover art right there, if you ask me. Not very interesting in my personal opinion, but I mean, I thought it was so, but once again, a film I need to rewatch. Now the next one is another slasher film from the 80s. I mean, sometimes I just feel like I need to watch every single 80s slasher film in general. But this is the film called Pandemonium. This is once again some sort of like, this is sort of like a comedy as well, I believe. And this one I just didn't care for at all when I first saw it. So this is another one I need to rewatch and see if I like it more. So Pandemonium. Then we have a film. This is once again some sort of like exploitation film from the 70s, and or maybe like a women in prison film. Not really sure, but it's a film called Fugitive Girls. This is known as something else as well. The main reason why I do this is just because I don't want to get flagged. So, but yeah, Fugitive Girls right there from the 70s. Then we have this little double pack right here, with God's Bloody Acre, and So Sad About Gloria. The main reason why I picked this one up was because of So Sad About Gloria, because I didn't have that film before. The other one I already had before in the Code Red release, so yeah. And that's actually a pretty fun film, so yeah. And then we have this film. This is sort of like a vigilante type deal. I watched this once before, thought it was decent enough. Charles Sterling is really great in this one. This one also has Pam Grier and James Keach in it, and it is the film called Stand Alone. So it's basically about Charles Sterling's character has to stand up for himself and deal with these like local punks, basically. So I'm a sucker for some of these films, so in general, so yeah. Then we have the film called The Blood-Sucking Bastards. Just based on the title, I really wanted to get a hold of that. Only heard really good things about this one in general. I thought this was pretty fun as well. Work. It sucks the life out of you. Right there on the bottom right there. I'm not sure you can read that or not, but yeah. So the very last thing for this update video is going to be like a double pack released by none other than Mondo Macabro, another really great company that releases really weird and strange films in general. So this one has the warrior and the blind swordsman, and the warrior and the ninja in it. Right here, I'm not sure how well you can see that. Sorry for the glare from time to time if it was completely like forgotten about that, but yeah. So that's about it. That's the entire update video right there. I'm probably gonna get back to making more like top 10 lists or maybe horror reviews in the near future. That's gonna be prioritized. I just felt like I really needed to show you some of these films because otherwise they'll just be stacks of movies everywhere. So, but anyway, hope you enjoyed this particular video. Thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, leave a comment if you've seen any of these films, if you like them or not, and yeah, whatever. Hope you enjoyed this particular video, and see you next time. Bye bye.